What's going on, guys? It's Jack, and today we are talking Arkansas basketball. And what an offseason it was for Arkansas. Eric Musselman is out. He went to USC. John Calipari is in. It is still weird looking at John Calipari in Arkansas red. There was the picture recently of PJ Washington in Arkansas gear. So that's even weird to see, but good to see his former player supporting his former coach at Arkansas. And so there's been a lot of change and turmoil with the Arkansas program. It was not a good year last year for Arkansas, to say the least. And so let's get into some of these moves and who's in, who's out, who stayed at Arkansas. So quickly, before we jump into that, speaking of how bad it was last year at Arkansas, they went 16-17, a losing record for Coach Musselman last season. They did get an early non-conference win over Duke, but things didn't turn out great after that. They went 6-12 in the SEC, tied for 11th, near the bottom of the conference there. And with that said, who's gone? Tremont Mark, Khalif Battle, Coach Eric Musselman, he's gone. Maki Mitchell, L. Ellis, Devontae Davis, Jalen Graham, Chandler Lawson, basically the whole team. Almost the whole team, actually, because one important guy decided he was going to stick around in Fayetteville at Arkansas, and that was Trevon Brazile, who a couple of years ago looked like he was breaking out. Unfortunately, had a major injury, and last season it just didn't seem like he was quite right. And there was a lot of chaos and just unsteadiness around him at the Arkansas program, and that certainly couldn't have helped. And the only other guy of note, and this is stretching it, that's back for Arkansas is Lawson Blake, who is a big 6'10", 240-pound forward center who will provide good practice depth for the Razorbacks. So with that being said, there's obviously got to be a lot of new players in for Arkansas, and there certainly are. And we're going to start off with the transfers, and then we'll move into the notable freshmen that Coach Calipari has brought in. So transfers. Most notable of which are the two guys that didn't come from Kentucky, John L. Davis and Jonas Aidoo. Those two guys are going to start for Arkansas. And John L. Davis comes in from FAU. He was part of that Final Four team 2 years ago and is just a certified bucket at the college level. This guy just knows how to score. And it doesn't matter to me that now he's going to play in the SEC. He's going to be just fine at the college level scoring. Jonas Aidoo, I really liked coming into last season with Tennessee. I thought he showed some flashes as a skilled big who can defend, who can rebound, but also, has good touch around the basket, can pass a little bit. And I like Jonas Aidoo's game. He did not, how do I want to say this? He did not finish well with Tennessee. The game against Purdue and Zach Edey just was not a good look for Jonas Aidoo. And thankfully for Jonas Aidoo, he's not going to have to face someone like Zach Edey again, at least this year in college basketball, most likely. Now, the three players who came over from Kentucky to join Coach Cal, DJ Wagner, Adu Thiero, and Big Z, Zvonimir Ivisic. So all three of these guys, interesting to me at least, was that I guess outside of Wagner, who, Coach Cal pretty much routinely started outside of a couple of games where he was coming back from injury. Thiero and Ivicic's minutes were kind of like up and down, so I was a little bit surprised to see them join Coach Cal, but they must have felt pretty confident in the situation that they were joining. And I like both players. Thiero, I think, is an underrated player as an NBA draft person. I have him on my radar because as a wing who can really defend and plays off the ball, if he can become a more consistent on higher volume three-point shooter, he's got a real NBA future ahead of him and will be a good college player almost no matter what. I think he is a good college player right now. And Ivisic He's a really talented big. He's got to get a little bit stronger, but he can certainly block shots and he can stretch the floor. So that's what people are looking for with your modern day centers. Guys, like a Wembanyama, a Chet Holmgren, a Kristaps Porzingis, right? That's kind of the mold that people are looking for, and it's really hard to find those types of guys. Ivicic has the tools to be somebody like that. And DJ Wagner, just going back to him, like he was a guy who came into college, 5-star recruit, top 5 in his class, and it just didn't work out for him at Kentucky, partially just because they had 2 other guards who were just better than him. Like Reed Sheppard and Rob Dillingham were awesome. And it was a tricky fit because all 3 of them, at least Dillingham, Sheppard could play on and off the ball, but Dillingham and Wagner were certainly much better with the ball. And specifically Wagner because he's not a great shooter. Now, there were moments last year where it seemed like his shooting was really improving, and then he would either get injured or regress. And so that's going to be a big key for DJ Wagner this season is his 3-point shooting. Moving on to the freshman class. You've got 3 main freshmen coming in this season for Coach Cal, and all 3 were original commits to Kentucky before flipping and joining Coach Cal at Arkansas. So you've got Boogie Fland, Carter Knox, and Billy Richmond. Now, Boogie Fland, he's an electric guard. He's quick. He can get to the basket. He's going to be a guy who's certainly part of the rotation. Carter Knox is Kevin Knox's younger brother. He's also a wing like his older brother, and I think he also will be part of the rotation this season for Kentucky. And Billy Richmond, I'm not as familiar with Billy's game, but I think he'll be on the outside of the rotation, maybe get in some games, but maybe not in the bigger games. So Coach Cal mentioned this offseason that he didn't want to have such a big roster. He felt like he was developing guys for other teams when they would transfer out, and so he kept this roster pretty tight and compact. And with that said, you've got basically Trevon Brazile who came back, and the 8 guys who I mentioned as key players coming in, and those are your 9 guys who are going to fill out your rotation. There's nothing else to it. And so speaking of that rotation, what is my projection for the starting lineup and the rotation? I think Wagner, Johnell Davis, Adu Thiero, Trevon Brazile, and Jonas Adu are going to start. I think I feel pretty good about that being the starting lineup. Yeah, I honestly don't see too many pathways for someone else to crack into the starting lineup off of the first game of the season as of right now. Maybe 10 games in, we see how people fit, etc., and that changes. But as of right now, that's what I would think. And then I think guys 6, 7, 8, 9 are going to be in this order. Boogie Fland, Big Z, Carter Knox, and Billy Richmond. Carter Knox is kind of the big question mark to me because I do think there's a chance he ends up starting over either Adu Thiero or Trevon Brazile. But I think Adu is kind of firmly entrenched as the starter over Ivicic. And I think those 2 guards, Wagner and Davis, are going to start over Boogie Fland. The only thing is maybe Coach Cal does get eventually to a 3-guard starting lineup, and that's where I could see Fland starting, and either Thiero or Brazile moves to the bench. So that's my projected starting lineup and rotation. What do I see, or what's the schedule, and what are my predictions for Arkansas this upcoming season? So looking at the non-conference portion of the schedule, as of right now, it doesn't seem like it's all been filled out yet, or I haven't seen it. So if you guys have seen any other major games, drop a comment below. That would be really awesome. So what I've got is a neutral court game against Illinois, a game at Miami as part of the ACC-SEC Challenge, and a game against Michigan in Madison Square Garden, New York City. So those are the 3 major non-conference games that I have. Again, let me know in the comments below. Also, like this video, that helps. But please, I'm curious. I want to know if you've seen any other big games for Arkansas. Conference portion of their schedule. They'll have home and away games with Missouri and Texas. Then they'll play only at home against Ole Miss, Florida, Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU, and Mississippi State, and away against Tennessee, LSU, Missouri, Kentucky, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. So Coach Cal will go on the road to Rupp for the first time this season. That'll be a very interesting game. That'll be something I will be sure to tune in to watch. That'll be a good atmosphere. So you've got 18 conference games, 13 non-conference games. So how do I see it shaking out? Well, really quickly, quick aside, before I get to that, I want to mention one thing, which is that the way I see this team is I think it's going to be really strong athletically and defensively, but I see some weaknesses in terms of cohesiveness. Obviously, you've got basically a brand new team. Shooting, there's no knockdown shooter, high percentage guy on this team. Johnell Davis potentially, but he takes a lot of tough shots. And playmaking is the other area where I just don't see, there's not a guy who's going to set up his teammates and average 7 assists on this team. And so, with that being said, I think they're going to be in a lot of close games. I think they'll go 9-4 in non-conference and 11-7 in conference play. There's just a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of new pieces. You've got a coach in a new place. There's just a lot of things that I think got to work out well for this team to win 24, 25 games. So I think 20-11 is appropriate. That would probably put them right on the bubble. They could be a bit better than that, but I'm being a bit conservative with just all of the new pieces that got to come together and fit. And then also the questions I have offensively with the shooting, spacing, playmaking. I think defensively this is going to be an excellent team. So let me know what you guys think about Arkansas in the comments. I'm curious, how do you think their season is going to unfold? Please like this video, helps grow the channel. Subscribe for more great college basketball and NBA draft content. And tell a friend. That always helps grow the channel. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.